say the good Lord is coming.
So welcome to the first episode of the ChevyCat Music Podcast. We're recording at Freedom House Church in Brantford on West Street. So there's a bit of traffic in the background to make it sound like we're not so alone in here. Our first guest for the podcast is Chase Stevens. And I met Chase at, I think it was the NSAI Tin Pan North songwriter rounds. Mm-hmm. And then we got acquainted by playing together at the Moonshine, doing songwriter rounds there as well. So I think I'd like to start off with just tell me about yourself and your background.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Chris. It's been a pleasure to get together with you today. We go back a few years now, back to those Tin Pan North festivals and so on. So, yeah, we got a little history going on there. So, great to be out here.
2017 or 18 now.
Yeah, for sure. So, a little bit about myself. Well, I'm a Mississauga-based singer-songwriter. And, years ago, I used to do the pub scene where you're doing a bunch of covers and throwing in the odd original and so on. Then I got out of music for a long time and was in the art business. I was a fine art dealer for a long time. And I decided to make a trip down to Nashville to check out the whole songwriting scene down there. And that was kind of a life-changing moment, to be honest with you.
Nashville will do that, yeah.
It will indeed.
I remember I wanted to do some recording in Nashville, and we actually booked. It was the last eclipse that North America got. We booked some time to go down to Nashville, and I didn't save up enough money, but we were going for the eclipse anyway, so we still went down there, and I kind of got more acquainted with country music than even I was before, and started committing a bit more to that. And then when I came back, people were like, "Oh, you went to Nashville." And I played an open mic at the Bluebird, but I didn't really do anything. But people were like, "Oh, you went to Nashville," though. I was like, I was a tourist. But it still changes a bit about you to go down there. There's something about Nashville.
Absolutely. From a songwriter perspective, you are immersed in this mecca of songwriting. So, you can't help but walking away from there, a better songwriter in some regards. And one of the things that I always say to people was I found that first trip very humbling and very inspirational. Humbling in the sense that when you hear the quality of the songwriting down there, I thought, oh, there's nothing that I've written that is anywhere close to that caliber. But inspirational in the sense that you also walk away knowing that songwriting is a craft. You work on it, and some of the top songwriters have the same sort of processes and methodologies toward their writing as I do or anybody else does. So there's not like there's some magic sort of thing or a gift that you're born with or you don't have. You can become a better songwriter with practice and so on.
Well, and that's one thing that I've loved in my journey of getting to know other songwriters and colleagues and musicians, and it's like because I think we're both aware of like Aaron Allen's successes and what he's done, and even talking to him, and I realize it's like we're all kind of in the same boat. It's just some of us are on different parts. It's like we're all figuring it out, and we're all facing our successes and challenges, which I'd love to talk about, like our challenges and embracing those a bit later. But it's interesting to get to know everybody's story, because like I see things that you're doing at the Moonshine, and like the network you have around you and stuff, and it's really inspiring and motivating to do stuff like this, because I've realized I'm not exactly an event guy, even though like I like putting that stuff together, but I'm not exactly an event guy and promoter. So but I still want to support my colleagues and stuff the way that you do with your songwriter rounds, which actually probably be a good time to talk about those now.
Sure. Well, I've been co-hosting with a guy named Paul Melissa. We've been doing the Songwriter Nights at the Moonshine for, I think we're closing in on about 6 years now. A little bit of a break there because of COVID, of course, but we started doing those like 6 years ago when there's very few songwriter rounds that were taking place in the city. So it was kind of nice to, get those going. NSAI had been doing them before us, and they stopped. And that's where Paul and I approached John from the Moonshine, and to see if we could take that over. And we were doing those. We're not doing them as much as we were now because we have other people who are out there doing songwriter rounds as well. So I don't feel as compelled to do them every 2 months, I think we started out doing them every month initially, but now we just do them like quarterly, just to get together with some folks and play some tunes again. But there's a ton of them all over the city nowadays. It's great.
Well, I know you guys inspired me to do some in Brantford when I was doing them, because I realized that there was nobody that I really ever saw west of Hamilton doing songwriter rounds at all. So I know I was like, oh, well, maybe I could get in on this and take part. And then, and I realized that podcasting might be my thing instead. I don't know yet.
Well, the songwriter rounds it's such a great format, and for a lot of people, if when they go out to their first one, I think they're surprised that you typically, you've got 3 or 4 songwriters up on the stage, and you're going down the line. You have this real eclectic mix of tunes and voices and styles and so on. So it makes for a really, really fun night.
Well, I remember the one that we did at the Rope Factory, where it was exactly what you're saying, the eclecticness of it, as like we had Jacob D'Souza doing more rock stuff, and you were doing country stuff, and Shaylee's doing more country stuff, and then Cassie did more, I'd say maybe soulful music, and then there's Benjamin Rogers doing more bluegrass style country and folk, and it's really cool because you get all these different characters up there, and then you also get the backstory of all these songs.
Absolutely.
Which I think is probably the key element, is because when you're playing a show, you don't want to be up there and like you're playing at the Rivoli or something. You're not going to take 5 minutes to get really intimate with the audience.
Right.
You're going to play your set.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into a song.
Okay.
Did you want to... Speaking of songwriter rounds, did you want to tell us about what your first song is? And
let me start off with a song that I had out. I recorded this down in Nashville, and then it was out at radio 3 years ago, I think it was. And it's still a fun song for me to play. It's another little roadside kiss. We did a video with this one, and we had Susie Corey join us, and it was just all kind of ad-libbed, and it was such a fun day shooting the video for it. Turned out really, really well. The song got some good airplay out of it, and so it's a fun song. And now that we're coming into spring and hopefully some nice weather, we're all going to get out there and, go on these nice long drives out in the country and check out some scenery. So, this is another little roadside kiss. Perfect morning shining through the towering pine. Gypsy wind is blowing the sweet smell of summer across the big old blue sky. There's a little back road that's waiting for you and I. Let's get these wheels moving forward, windows down, music cranked up loud. Winding through the heart of nowhere, skipping every town. You know I'm gonna stop at every chance there is. Another little roadside kiss. Won't worry about time, I don't care when we get back. We'll drive into the night. If you wanna chase the sunset, you know I'd be good with that. As long as I've got you beside me, our love the view.
Let's get these wheels moving forward, windows down, music cranked up loud. Winding through the heart of nowhere, skipping every town. You know I'm gonna stop every chance there is. Another little roadside kiss. Oh yeah, yeah, a little roadside kiss. Slip on a pair of sneakers and come with me. These are the days we live for, let's make it a memory. Let's get these wheels moving forward, windows down, music cranked up loud. Winding through the heart of nowhere, skipping every town. You know I'm gonna stop every chance there is. Another little roadside kiss. Yeah, you know I'm gonna stop every chance there is. Another little sunlit roadside kiss.
All right. Thank you. So let's talk about your inspirations. Like what let's start with that song. What inspired that song?
Being cooped up in the winter, and I wrote this during COVID. I think it was one of the first songs I actually wrote. I know when COVID first hit, there was a long while where I really wasn't doing any music at all. And I think for the most part of that first year in 2020, I didn't do much. And then that following winter, I started doing some writing again. And I think that was one of the first songs that I wrote around that time.
I love that you wrote that in winter. Well, I guess it makes sense though, right? It's like a lot of Christmas albums are done in the summer in time for Christmas.
That's right.
They decorate the studio.
Yep, for sure.
Like overall, who are your songwriter inspirations and for playing music in general?
Well, it's interesting because I'm doing, country-ish kind of stuff now, but my inspirations were all this, the singer-songwriters that, from the guys back in the 1970s for the most part, people like Jim Croce, Harry Chapin, Cat Stevens, Elton John. Those were the first tunes that I really gravitated toward. And I think what drew me into country was because I really liked really, really good lyrics. And I remember watching a video on TV one afternoon, and this video of this young guy named Keith Urban was on, and he was just starting to gain popularity. And it just kind of resonated because I thought it's country, but it's kind of singer-songwritery as well. The strong lyrical content in what he's doing, very melodic. And I just thought, I got to check this out a little bit more. So that's when I started to dig into a little bit more country music and just kind of gradually ended up, navigating over to that side.
I love that you said that you credit that to Keith Urban because him and Dierks Bentley are the guys that got me into country.
Really?
Actually, yeah. I remember growing up and kind of making fun of country music because it's like the doom 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 like the jug bass line.
Yeah, and I was never exposed to much country music. Nobody in my family listened to country music, so I would only hear little bits of people like Johnny Cash or whoever was popular back in the in that era. But it certainly wasn't something that I was exposed to at all.
Yeah. It's kind of like around that time. I feel like country music has like ebbs and flows, where it's like it'll be like really good, like around when You'll Think of Me and What Was I Thinking came out. Like it was really great. Of course, I'm biased because those are the songs that drew me in. But then I remember for a while there, it kind of got bad, and then it got really good again, and then it got kind of meh. And I kind of love country music for that. because it kind of gives a contrast where it makes it's kind of like the bad times make the good times greater.
Sure.
And every once in a while, when I'm working at my graphic design job, we'll have country on, and I've found kind of a new revival of passion for it, getting more into like listening to it again, because I get caught up in my Spotify stuff that I don't listen to the radio as much, and then it kind of forces me to open my mind a little bit, because it's there. But I also try to stay open-minded anyway and be like, there's no bad song, there's just out of key.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that I think people forget sometimes is that every genre of music evolves. You look at what pop is now compared to what pop was 20, 30 years ago, or rock or whatever. It evolves. So I hear a lot of people complaining about new country. They say, why can't they just be doing the same old country as they were way back in the day? Well, I think music would be boring if it just sort of stayed along the same lines as that. You want it to evolve. I want to hear different styles and different voices coming out. I want everything to sound the same.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's one thing that's looking into country a long time ago. I loved realizing just how broad country music is, because I can't remember if country music is under the umbrella of folk. I think country music is under the umbrella of folk, and then you've also got the other genres. So it's like, I mean, you've got like, I keep saying at my shows, there are two people in the world. There are people that like Chris Stapleton and people who are wrong. And I mean, you've got Chris Stapleton in the same genre as, and some people might disagree, in the same genre as like Kane Brown. And I like that it's not all like, it's not all Johnny Cash style. It's not all rockabilly. It's not all honky tonk. It's you've got that pop element, and it's like I love the broadness of it.
I do too. I'm not a big fan of genre labels to begin with. Because I think partly because of this, a lot of the stuff that I do, it doesn't really fit into a defined slot. If you're going to say, like it's not real country, it's because it's a little bit of singer-songwriter, especially with the new song that I just put out now. It's I don't even know, it's barely country, I guess. It's a little bit of singer-songwriter-y sort of stuff is in there as well. So, like to me, I think genres were kind of invented so you knew where to put the records in the record stores, where you could find people. But outside of that, either you like it or you don't. And to me, if I like a song, I don't really care what genre. It could be opera, it could be rap, whatever. If it's a good song, it's a good song. Yeah. Call it whatever you want. I don't really care, right?
It's like I wrote a bunch of songs with Dan Washburn, and he made a comment about somebody, another songwriter, I can't remember who, or if it was, I can't remember if it was a writing partner of his, or if it was like another famous songwriter. I can't even remember if the person exists. I'm just kidding. But no, he said about like, he doesn't worry about writing country or rock. He just wants to write good songs.
Right.
And I think, that's kind of what matters. Like I hate trying to classify my stuff. It's like, well, what do you play? It's like, well, this is a country album, but it doesn't sound like country compared to like what's on the radio. So it's like, so where does it fit in? And then all of a sudden I don't know where I fit in.
Yeah.
So I feel that.
Yeah. And I miss radio from back in the day too, because I remember when I was in my teens and you listened to radio, you would have such a eclectic mix of songs in there. And it could be a country or song that was popular at the time, and then you'd also hear Queen, or then you'd hear Jim Croce tune or that sort of stuff. Like it was all over the map. I kind of think that's the way it should be. Really, I wish it was more like that today.
Well, I think that's the beauty of like the digital independent stations.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
I once had somebody say, I won't call it an internet station, but that's where they are. But like there's a place in Paris here. It's kind of a shameless plug because they play my music often, but on the Grand Radio in Paris, he's got a huge mix of all genres, and it's like putting like 5,000 songs on shuffle and letting it go. Like, I don't know how he actually does it, but that's kind of the experience that it gives you. And I like the surge of digital stations by independent local people, because we have local radio, but we don't really have local radio anymore.
Yeah, and all those internet stations are run by people who have a passion for music, whereas a lot of the radio stations today, unfortunately, they're getting bought up by big corporate conglomerates, and the focus really isn't on breaking new artists. They in fact, I had a program director, I won't say what the station it was from, but he said to me, "We don't make hits, we play hits." And I thought, man, that's, I'm not really sure that's how radio really should be working, but
I'm still passionate about my original stuff, but I've found a bit of a resource playing those gigs that you mentioned about, like playing in pubs and like 3 hours of covers and sneaking in, well, not really sneaking in, but like adding in some of your original stuff. And it feels, well, unless I want to get a full-time job working for somebody else other than my guitar, then I'll gladly do that. Just because I'm not sure, like what you said, it's like we don't make hits, we play hits, and it's like it's really difficult to navigate. And now you have the whole thing of I think it's Deezer that's they're taking off the useless, quote unquote, tracks from their platform.
Oh, really?
So now it's almost kind of feeling like, I mean, if you have no plays on a platform, then whatever, there's no loss. But it kind of makes you feel like it's becoming a lot like the big broadcasters and stuff, like how, Much Music wasn't going to play my video unless I had like a label or something behind me. And now radio is kind of the same way, which totally not complaining. It is what it is. If I want to get on the radio, I have to figure it out. But just for relatable sake.
Yeah. Like, and fortunately, we do have a bunch of great stations in Canada who really do support indie artists, and they do play us. There's a whole bunch of them that have been playing my stuff since I started putting things out about 5 years or so ago. And you love those guys because they just are so supportive.
Yeah, and then we've also got the community of like the Canadian Country Indie Countdown.
Yep.
Right? I got the acronym right. The CCIC, which is a cool thing. Like, I see posts from friends every once in a while, and I recognize so many names on it, and it's like it's really cool to see the community. I'm not too much a part of it. Like, I know who people are probably more than they know who I am, but it's like it's really cool to see that it's a thing.
Yeah. And that chart's actually growing now, too, because now they have, it used to be the top 100, and now it's like 150. So the 50 on the back end are songs that are waiting to crack into the top 100 now. So you can see how people are jumping on board and wanting to get the songs onto that chart and play. So it's great. And that show, too, that's another great example of internet stations, because that show is played on about 50 internet stations around the world. So again, you get a lot of reach that you wouldn't get otherwise. So it's.
I think he just got picked up on the Grand too.
Is that right?
Yeah.
See, excellent. That's great.
But so yeah, amongst our grievances, there's lots of good too.
Tons, absolutely, there is. Sure. Oh, for sure.
Let's get to another song. We've been talking for about 25 minutes. We've only played one song.
Okay.
So let's showcase.
Well, there's so much
another.
to talk about, though, Chris.
Oh yeah.
We could go on for hours.
We've already talked for about an hour and a half before we actually started recording this.
Very true. Okay, so the writing process is an interesting thing, and you can tell me if you find this as well. Like, this is a song that I initially wrote about. I'm going to say 10 years ago, maybe even a little bit more. And I never really landed on a spot that I thought, okay, the song's finished, or I like what it, what's saying, whatever the case is. So I'd put it away, come back to it, and revamp it, and nah, that just didn't quite work. And so I hadn't played the song for I'm gonna say probably 4 years or so, and then just about a month ago, I don't even know why it popped into my head, and I sat down and started trying to remember what I knew. Then ended up rewriting a bunch of more of the music part of it. A lot of the lyrics remained fairly much intact, but I think it's finished now. So after a song that's been in the works for 10 years, and you can finally say, yeah, I think it's finished now, right? So, do you ever go through that with songs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll chime in after your song.
Okay.
He was sitting on a park bench under a late October sky, asking for a little change from everybody passing by. I gave him all I had and turned to walk away till I heard him say, there's a fine line between up and down. There's a cold wind blowing that keeps pushing me down. I got on a long road that never made its way around. Kept on drifting till there's no way back. This is where I'm at. You showed me a photo. You said this used to be my home. That's my wife Betty. I miss her, God rest her soul. Yeah, that's me in uniform when I stood tall and proud. Look at me now. There's a fine line between up and down. There's a cold wind blowing that keeps pushing me down. I got on a long road that never made its way around. Kept on drifting till there's no way back. So this is where I'm at. So count your blessings, 'cause this might have been you. Count your blessings, that your plans don't fall through. One bad decision, one twist of fate, a little bad luck or a big mistake. One minute you're climbing, then you're falling through. 'Cause there's a fine line between up and down. There's a cold wind blowing that keeps pushing me down. I got on a long road that never made its way around. I kept on drifting till there's no way back. This is where I'm at. This is where I'm at.
That's great.
Thank you. Thanks.
It was definitely worth the time.
Well, thank you.
I think.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
I know what you're talking about with taking a lot of time to work on a song. I haven't. It took me, I think, a few weeks, maybe a month or so. I wrote a song, and it's like getting it just right sometimes is like one of the hardest things, because you don't want to just like that seems like the type of song where it's like you didn't want to just say whatever worked. You were actually saying something specific, and there's a reflection to it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and that's a key point. Like, and I think it's one of the things that you learn from going down to Nashville too, that every line has to have some weight to it. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I would get song critiques down there, because I think we've all done it. You have a line that it rhymes, it fits in, and it's okay, but it's not a great line, but it works, right? And inevitably, whenever I'd have a song critiqued, those lines, they would pick up and say, I think this line can be stronger. So you do learn that you have to make every line mean something. It can't just be a filler line.
Well, and then also, Augusta Ray pointed out one time about perspective. Because I wrote a song and it felt like one of the best ones that I had done, and I was getting good feedback about it. And then she pointed out, she's like, your perspectives are all different, like depending on what you're saying. Like you have to be worried about, you have to focus on your tense, your past, present, future, and saying I or you and everything. And it's just like making it continuous depending on like how narrative you're saying or reflective or just whatever it is, whatever you're trying to convey. And that's another, it's like a plot hole. It's like I admire people that write stories and stuff because of stuff like that. Like I wrote a 4-minute song and I was like, oh shoot, I'm like singing about past and present all in the same verse. Yeah,
it's certainly something you have to be very cognitive of, and it's easy to overlook that sort of stuff too sometimes. And yeah, for sure. One of the things I found really interesting, I was going to mention this a little earlier, that when we were talking about Nashville and the whole songwriting thing down there, is everybody's trying to write like a hit song, and then you think, okay, what really is a hit song? You may have written a number one hit song already. I may have, everybody may have written a number one hit song, because timing is a big part of it, right? Yeah. And I learned that when I was down in Nashville, that the song "The House That Built Me," which is an amazing song, that was sitting around for 8 years, and they couldn't get that cut. And there was one line in there, Tom Douglas, he was at a seminar, he didn't say which line it was, he didn't say what the old line was, but they changed one line in the song and they got it cut by Miranda Lambert, and it became a number one hit song. Same with The Climb by Miley Cyrus. That song was 5 years old, was pitched to every major female artist in Nashville. Nobody wanted to cut that song, and then Disney used it in the Hannah Montana film, and next thing you know, it launches Miley's career, right? Oh, wow. And a song called All Kinds of Kinds. Don Henry wrote that 16 years before Miranda Lambert recorded it. And he gave me the CD that had that song on there, and I listened to his CD, and that didn't stand out where you go, oh my God, that's a number one hit song waiting to happen. It was a song. Yeah. But all the other elements came together, and next thing you know, I think it actually won Song of the Year. And so,
Well, there's lots of stories and like even movies where somebody turns it down and then somebody else does something with it, and you're like kicking yourself because it didn't grab you. But that's also kind of like it wasn't your song or your movie, right? Like we were talking about guitars before we started recording, as I was saying how like you can buy a guitar and it's your guitar, but it might not be your guitar, right? Like it's kind of like a soulmate thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's amazing that like missed opportunities could also be like blessings, because you might record that song and then it's not a hit for you, and then it's like, oh well, it's a bad song or something, and then somebody else records it instead of you, and it's like it's such an interesting nuanced journey that we're all on. But actually, talking about how long it took you to write that song, I was gonna start bringing up overcoming and embracing challenges as songwriters, because I remember I think it was actually like November, December 2020, we had a conversation on the phone because I recorded a song and I was kind of rushing because it was time sensitive to release Damn Pandemic Christmas. And I wrote it really quick, and I wanted to record it in time for Christmas because I was like, well, next Christmas, it's not going to be a damn pandemic Christmas anymore. And then I remember getting feedback from Natalie, and she didn't know what she was hearing that was off. And I remember getting frustrated because I was still not at peace with my music. Like, it wasn't, I don't think I was, maybe I wasn't hearing the call from God, or maybe it just wasn't the right time. But I remember having kind of a tantrum and being like, writing on Facebook, it's like, I'm tired of wasting my life on music. And then, you and me had a really good call and kind of talked about it. And since then, I've really learned to embrace the challenges. And because, again, like we were talking before we started recording, it's like, failure is a great place to grow. Mm-hmm. Success is amazing. It brings you progress, but you grow from failure. So I wanted to talk about like hurdles you've overcome, and your philosophy on getting over those hurdles, or just things that you see, like getting your music on the radio, like just what's your approach to the challenges, and how do you embrace them?
That's a really, really good question. And it's interesting because when you use the word embrace them, and I think, and I'm just sitting here thinking, do I always embrace them? Because you get frustrated sometimes.
It's one of the hardest things.
So I'm thinking, you've got a great positive outlook about failure, and I think you're right. You do have to recognize failures that are opportunities and challenges that we have to overcome. I think in my core, I think there is a possibility of writing a really great song, and that's kind of the pursuit for me. Is I just want to write. If I could write one song that was so amazing, like A House That Built Me, or Let It Be, or Bridge Over Troubled Water, just one song that would just kind of last forever. That's kind of the goal for me, and I think that's what keeps me motivated to keep writing. And sometimes you do get to the point where you think, and it wasn't all that long ago, I just wasn't doing a lot of writing. Maybe that's why I went back and started looking at some old songs again. Because you just kind of think, maybe I don't have anything to say anymore. I don't know if I do or not, or just not thinking of a fresh approach. And that can be very, very frustrating. And I think sometimes you just have to ride it out. You have to recognize that it is just part of the process of writing. Keep trying to work through it, and just keep, believing that there's a hit song in all of us that's waiting to come out, waiting to be recorded.
So I guess in the immortal words of Joe Dirt, just keep on keeping on.
Basically, I think that's basically it. Now, I don't know if that's just stubbornness, or I'm not really sure what you want to call that, but it works for me. It kind of keeps me going, and I love the process of recording. So you take a little song, as you write a little song on your couch with just you and a guitar, and then you go into the studio and you put it in the hands of these amazing musicians, and you walk out of there and it's like, wow, look what I've just created. And you think, that didn't exist before you sat on that couch with your guitar. There's something very magical about that process. Well, and I think we all love that when that happens, right?
I've found many times where I'm just messing around with my recording program and like putting something together, like maybe putting a demo together that it's not really intended to be a demo. I just want to make a song. And then as you're tinkering around and going at it, you start getting inspired to create more from your creation. And that's a neat thing. But one thing that resonated a lot was just now when you said about maybe I don't have anything left to say, because I'm actually kind of going through a bit of I feel like a new songwriter again, because I was talking to Natalie about how it's like, it kind of sucks being happy, because I can't write anything anymore. I'm like, I got nothing to write about.
You need some turmoil in your life,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. I'm like, if we could, like, I don't know, have like a really big fight and I can just spiral into a depression for a week, then I might be able to get some more songs. But it's a real thing to, like, it's maybe not even a writer's block, but just being like, I don't have anything new. Maybe I don't have anything new. Maybe I've said everything I have to say, and it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, and I think the comforting thing is that we all have to remember is that everybody goes through that. The best of songwriters go through that as well. So it's not like it's only unique to us. That's for sure.
Well, and I think I asked Jeff Pierce once about songwriting and stuff, and he said for every one huge hit, you might have 99 pieces of crap. I don't think it's 99. It's like maybe 30 songs that just aren't that great.
Yeah. Right.
And one hit. And it's just, what you also said reminded me of, I think the last time I did songwriter rounds at the Moonshine with you guys, Jamie Warren was there, and he was talking about, like, maybe you just have a verse and a chorus, and maybe that's the song. It's like, maybe it's not like a radio song or anything, but maybe that's the song.
Yeah.
So that's always sat with me kind of nice, because, I mean, Tiny Dancer is like 3 choruses and 2 verses, but there's 3 verses.
Yeah.
Which is a very liberating thing to think about. So you have a new song out.
I do.
Called A Head Start.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to just what we were talking about there a little bit, about looking for new ideas, new songs. I was in a little bit of a dry spell just a few months ago. I guess this was in the fall, actually. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I should just start noodling around in a different key that I don't normally write in. And so that's what I did with this song. So I started, playing in E and using some chords that I don't typically use, and put together this little progression. And one of the things that I've been seeing about, because we live in, the world is kind of messed up right now. There's a lot of things, bad things going on, and I was seeing a lot of people posting that who are very, very, very religious, and they were saying, like, this is all part of God's plan, and God's in control, and God's going to come down and fix all this. And I thought, that may be true, but I think we as human beings have to do a better job, each of us, to make the world a better place. So, and that's really what the song is all about. So regardless of your religious beliefs or non-religious beliefs, I think we have to take accountability and make the world a better place, and it starts with each of us. That's what the song's all about. And I was hearing strings and a choir in there, and approached a couple of producers. One of them, Rob Wells, who's a Toronto guy who's worked with some huge names, and so he produced this song for me and did a great job. It just turned out so well. So I'll do my little acoustic version of it, and I sent you the finished version of that, and people can compare and how the two of them sound, which is kind of neat, because you hear how a song starts off and what it ends up with at the end, right?
Yeah, I love we'll have the contrast.
Yeah. So this is A Head Start. I hear people say the good Lord is coming down to make things right. I don't know if that's true or when it would happen, but we can make changes starting tonight. Let's try a little kindness, spread a little peace and love, leave hatred behind us. Let goodness rise above. If we all join in together, we can make light of the dark. Let's give God's plan a head start. I dream of a day the world comes together and people can love whoever they choose. No more guns, no more bombs, no more children dying.
It's all in our hands in what we do. Let's try a little kindness, spread a little peace and love, leave hatred behind us. Let goodness rise above. If we all join in together, we can make light of the dark. Let's give God's plan a head start. How many times will we go down this road? How many times will we fall? You'd think by now we'd have it figured out, and there'd be peace on earth for all. I hear people say the good Lord is coming down to make things right. I don't know if that's true or when it would happen, but we can make changes starting tonight. Let's try a little kindness, spread a little peace and love, leave hatred behind us. Let goodness rise above. If we all join in together, we can make light of the dark. Let's give God's plan a head start. Let's give God's plan a head start. People say the good Lord is coming down to make things right. I don't know if that's true or when it would happen, but we can make changes starting tonight. Let's try a little kindness, spread a little peace and love, leave hatred behind us. Let the goodness rise above. If we all join in together, we can make light of the dark. Let's give God's plan a head start. I dream of a day the world comes together and people can love whoever they choose. No more bombs, no more guns, no more children dying. It's all in our hands in what we do. Let's try a little kindness, spread a little peace and love, leave hatred behind us. Let goodness rise above. If we all join in together, we can make light of the dark. Let's give God's plan a head start. How many times will we go down this road? How many times will we fall? You'd think by now we'd have it figured out. There'd be peace on earth for all. I hear people say the good Lord is coming down to make things right. I don't know if that's true or when it would happen, but we can make changes starting tonight. Let's try a little kindness, spread a little peace and love, leave hatred behind us. Let goodness rise above. If we all join in together, we can make light of the dark. Let's give God's plan a head start. Let's give God's plan a head start.
Great job.
Thank you. Thanks.
Now, I depending on who's listening, it's no secret in my circle that I'm very biased, that I love the references of God in it. And I love that you, like what we were talking about, you resolved it with that first verse, which is, I love that stuff.
Thanks.
I love that stuff. Actually, I've been telling a joke all week how Jehovah's Witnesses came to my house and asked if I think much about Jesus, and I asked them how much time they had. But no, it's a great song, and I'm excited for people to hear the comparison of and I think if people are maybe not at your level with your songwriting yet, with production and stuff, it might be cool to hear that acoustic version, what you've got, and then people can hear the track as well.
You know what I'd like to do at some point in time is I use my phone a lot for writing, and so you have this progression of how a song, what it starts off at, where you're sitting there singing and looking for words, looking for melodies, and a lot of it's a lot of mumble jumble and trial and error and all that sort of stuff, and then you just see how the song actually evolves to the point of where you say, okay, it's a finished song. Now I'm going to go record it. So that's a whole different transition as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, I was when I was talking about naming the podcast, I also thought about the Work Tape podcast, because that's what if you're new to songwriting and stuff as the listener, that's pretty much Chase just explained what a work tape is, and then I was talking to a friend of mine about naming the podcast. He's like, why wouldn't you just call it the ChevyCat Music Podcast? I'm like, that's a genius idea, because I'm not as smart as you. And, but yeah, I also thought about, it's like the work tape sessions, where it's like sharing the progression of a song. It's like, this is the first voice note demo of the finished thing. Or of the finished, like the song when I first recorded it. Here's the demo, here's the scratch track, here's and it's like that could be neat to.
It'd be interesting. I don't know about you, but I know some of my some of those initial work tapes, they're pretty scary sounding. So I go back and listen to those sometimes and think, oh my God.
Yeah. There's a reason I hate recording videos on my phone, is because there's no auto-tune.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like T-Pain or anything, but I need that tiny bit of help.
It's a tool, right? It's a tool.
Yeah. So we've got a little bit of time left, and so let's do some humble bragging.
Okay.
Some of your accomplishments.
Some of my accomplishments
that you're, I guess, that you're most proud of.
Well, I won a couple of awards last year, in August and September, for songwriting. One was down in Atlanta, one was in Mississauga. I won the Songwriter of the Year award in Mississauga. I won International Single down in Atlanta. So that was huge for me. That was certainly a feel-good moment. I think also, when you first hear your song on the radio, you're driving along in the car and your song comes on. That's pretty magical.
I had my latest song I got on a couple of radio stations in one weekend, because I submitted them and I was fortunate enough for them to take it on, and I hadn't felt that in a little while, because I was I think I maybe at some point I maybe took it for granted a little bit, or it didn't let it sink in. I don't know. But I got that maybe in November, December, maybe it was January. It was sometime between October and now. But yeah, I know what you're talking about, where it's just like, this is the highlight of my day. And it's like every time is just as exciting as the first time.
It never gets old, ever, I know. And I have two daughters. I remember one day I had a song out called Right on Time that got a lot of airplay on this CBC Country Channel. And they pulled it in the driveway. They were all excited because the song was on the radio. And, that's a feel-good moment for sure, right?
Well, and especially on the CBC channels or Sirius XM, it's like that's like a whole new level, right? Because it's like I'm still excited at the possibility. I haven't had that happen for any of my songs yet, but I still get excited thinking about it. It's like I feel like it would be kind of like a promotion where it's like, all right, I made it. Okay, now where?
Yeah, it's a little stamp of validation, you know, for sure.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a really interesting story. Do we have time for a quick story?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
I'm trying to keep it at an hour, but it doesn't have to be an hour.
Okay. First time I was going down to Nashville, I'd mentioned to a sister-in-law that I was going down, and she asked me if I was going down to golf, and I said, no, I'm going down to do some songwriting workshops and seminars. And without missing a beat, she said, I hate to break it to you, but your time has come and gone. And like, you're too old to be doing this sort of stuff. And then she said to me, she said, and you really aren't that good. And I thought, this is, you know, like for a sister-in-law or for anybody to say that to anybody, I think it's just absolutely outrageous, right? But so that always kind of, you know, those sort of comments kind of stick in the back of your mind a little bit. So then when you do have these little moments of great things happening to you, you know, you almost want to go back and, you know, and say something. I don't, but, you know, so it kind of motivates you a little bit, right? And it makes I think it makes the successes even a little bit sweeter, actually.
Well, I know I haven't always appreciated having music in my life, because I had, from my perspective, reflecting on my younger self, I had a massive ego and a little bit of entitlement, probably a lot of entitlement. But yeah, so I didn't always appreciate it, hence the phone call we had in 2020. And I think my moment of that comment was somebody who was just letting loose on me one day. I think we ended up in like a battle of egos or something. And he said, you've been trying so hard for so long, you should probably start taking a hint. And now when I look back, I didn't realize what it was at the time, but now when I look back and I get to play music every weekend, and it pays my rent, and like I've got graphic design, which you know, it gives me some spending money, or like if gigs are short a little bit, or what, either way, it helps me live comfortably and generously at the same time. And it's like I've become super thankful to be able to do that, because 7 years ago, I probably should have taken a hint. Maybe not to quit, but to maybe reassess some things. And then, you know, since COVID, I've been able to do that from attending church and everything. But yeah, I definitely had one of those moments, and it's great, kind of great to look back and be like, yeah, it's like I've got this validation where it's like, now I'm doing it as a career.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's really, to think of that contrast, it's like it makes you a little more thankful than you may have been, even if you would have been thankful regardless.
Yeah, and you know, you're putting music out into the world. Like, is there really anything more beautiful than that?
Yeah.
Like, everybody loves music. So if you're one of the people who are putting music out into the world, you're doing something positive and something beneficial for this planet we live on. So
yeah, and not to sound like a Facebook meme, but like the whole magic and miracle of music. It's like music is caused by the compression and rarefaction of molecules, right? And literally everything is made up of molecules, including us. So it's like music goes through us. It's like when you feel the right music, and it's like on your wavelength or something like that, when it really resonates in your chest. Like White Horse, first time I heard White Horse, I can't remember ever getting that excited when a song kicked in, and like I felt that feeling in my chest, and I was like, it was like my team won the Stanley Cup or something.
Yeah. And it's great when a song does that. That's unbelievable. That's a spiritual moment, really.
Oh yeah. Let's. What are your future plans from what you can see down the road right now?
Well, I just put out the new song. Just came out this week, and so I'm doing quite a bit of writing now. So this is the beginning of the third album. So what I want to do is over the course of the next year is record some more songs toward that album. If we can finish off the whole thing, that would be awesome, and put that out there. I think I need to put together a little bit of a band. It's one thing I've never done before. I've always been this solo guy, so I've never had to worry about splitting up because I've always been on my own. But I think it's time to put together a band and cool. Get into doing some festivals and some different venues that just wouldn't be able to do as a solo performer.
Well, and I guess because of like the songwriter rounds and the Moonshine, you've got some great relationships and connections where I'm pretty confident in saying that you should have no problem putting together a good band.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of guitarists and percussionists and bass players and stuff like that out there that I've met. So I just need to make some phone calls and start putting that together and do some showcases with as a band.
Nice.
That's kind of the long-term goal for this year.
And one thing I meant to ask a while ago, but we got talking in other directions. But do you do all of your recording in Nashville, or like most of it? Or
I have until this most recent song. This was all done here in the Toronto area. So I'm glad of that. Recording in Nashville with the quality of musicians that I've been playing with down there has been unbelievably. It's awesome. It's fantastic. But it is nice to be able to say, yeah, I recorded this song in my own country. So
and have the full maple stamp.
Exactly. That's right. I've only been able to use 3/4 of that up to this point, so it's nice to have the full thing in there. So yeah, that's good. And I think I might still do some more recording in Nashville. I'm going to kind of play that by ear and see how things progress.
For most of these new songs, this new album, are you thinking you're maybe leaning towards doing more? Recording in Toronto area, or
possibly,
yeah.
I think I'm just going to kind of see where it goes, where I get I think the key thing is with each song, how you envision it to bring in the right team to record that. And I'd love to work with Rob Wells again and do some more tunes, because I love the stuff that he does. So maybe we'll do a little bit in Nashville, a little bit up in here in Toronto with Rob. I'm not really sure at this point. Or maybe we'll do the whole thing with Rob. That'd be cool too, to do the whole thing in Toronto. And we'll see.
And then you can get 7/8 of the maple stamp.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Let's play one more song, and then we'll finish off this episode with the decay of your guitar. So first, I want to thank you for taking part in this and coming all the way from the GTA.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's been awesome. Thanks for having me out.
And it's really exciting to give podcasting a shot.
Yeah, it's great to get together and have a chat again.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation. I knew it would be a great conversation when I invited you, and it's my nerves are now finally chilling out, and the excitement is just making me tremble now.
Excellent. So this is a song that, this is again another song that I wrote, and actually I did record this one in Nashville. The band was amazing on there, but it didn't make it onto the first album. We recorded it around that time, and I didn't put it on the first album. There's just something about it that just wasn't quite right. So I shelved it, went back and did a little bit of rewriting on this one not too many months ago. And because I always liked what it said, and I think it fits in with the theme of the songs that I'm writing now. Because I think as I'm getting a little bit older, I think I'm looking a little bit more reflective in some of my songwriting. So I'm finding there's a little bit of that commonality of time, and that's what this song's about. Do you ever wanna get in a little boat? Sit back and just let it float down a gentle stream. Let your mind do nothing but daydream. Do you ever want to climb the highest hill? Lay on the grass and wait until the stars come out. Think of what life is all about. Sit up on a roof, kiss under the moon. When we were young, that's exactly what we would do. Way back when we were still
living on the innocence of youth. We thought we had forever, a heart full of big dreams. Made a promise to ourselves that we would never let it end. Let's get young again. Do you ever want to just get in your car, keep on driving and see how far you get on a tank of gas? How many little towns you can pass? Jump in a northern lake, dance in a summer rain. When we were young, that's exactly what we would do. Way back when we were still running on the innocence of youth. We thought we had forever, a heart full of big dreams. Made a promise to ourselves that we would never let it end. Let's get young again. Sit out on a rocky ledge, hang our feet over the edge, stare and wonder at an endless view. When we were young, that's exactly what we would do. Way back when we were still running on the innocence of youth. We thought we had forever, a heart full of big dreams. Made a promise to ourselves that we would never let it end. Let's get young again.